So I started a book that I didn't expect. I'm holding the mic now. I hope it's fine. I started a book that I didn't expect to like. Some of my friends over on my Patreon were really, really excited about this book because it was a cozy fantasy, and cozy fantasy is for the people with hearts. But I don't like cozy fantasy, so I didn't think I would like it, but I am addicted to buddy reads, so I agreed to read it with them. And I love it. It's called The Barbarian in the Bookshop, and it's so fun. I don't care that it's cute so much, but it's fun. If someone had told me this was satire, I would have jumped. So the story follows a woman who bought a building, and she's opening up a bookshop, and she's moving into town. This is a new place for her. And when she first gets there, there's some sleeping goblins there in her bookshop, and she needs to remove them, and so she goes to the police, but then the police tell her, oh no, do you know that goblins are an endangered species? Too many people have gone around trying to slay them all for their quests, and so now you're not allowed to touch them. If they decide that they're going to take resident in your bookshop, woe is you. It's illegal to touch those guys. And so she goes to hire a murder hobo to come and help be rid of the goblins. And she connects with this barbarian who then comes and helps her, but then says, all right, now I'm on retainer because you need security here. And so these two very unlikely people are now paired up in this bookshop as she's trying to open it. There's this woman who shows up who's like, I don't want you to work here, and she's the one that I was just introduced to, the main antagonist of the story, so I don't know a lot about her, but she's easy to not like. But it's that kind of nonsense that I love, and that kind of silly fun writing where she'll promise, I promise not to go find a murder hobo, I promise not to go to this pub where they are, and then the chapter ends, and then the next chapter is titled Maribel goes to find a murder hobo. It's just like, it does that over and over again, and I just think that's so fun. It's very, very short. It's under 300 pages for sure. I'm reading it on ebook, so I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's adorable, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm having a good time. Welcome to the vlog. So I finished The Barbarian in the Bookshop, or The Bookshop and the Barbarian, I think is what it's called. So this was really, really cute. Like I said in the other clip, it's a very nonsensical, silly world. There's different creatures like goblins introduced, but also bookworms and other fantastical things that are introduced in very cute and fun ways. There's a lot of, I think you probably haven't read this. I thought this was more popular than it was, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is super under the radar. But there's one scene in particular that really, really got to me, where it was somebody advising our protagonist to not wait. And, you might put off pursuing your dreams, you might put off pursuing your love, but you don't know how many tomorrows you get with that person, so don't wait, go. And that was just, I really, really loved that scene. But anyway, it was really sweet. So cozy fantasy is a genre that has cropped up and just gone bananas, at least in the circles that I see. And it's not my thing. I don't actively dislike it, but more often than not, a cozy fantasy is like, yep, I see the appeal. wasn't mine. Legends and Lattes is the only book that I've read that I actually actively really enjoyed reading, and at the end I was like, I have all these problems. I can point to this plot-wise and I can point to that structurally, and I can say all these things, but it just worked somehow. It's not a new favorite, but it worked for me, and I actually got to enjoy this one. I would say that if you enjoyed Legends and Lattes, if you like the vibe that it brought, you should check this one out. This is a solid comparison book. It's not going to give you the exact same thing. Obviously, it shouldn't. It does its own thing, but it has those vibes, and I think it delivers in a similar way. I still have a million little things that I want to pick at and be annoying about, and maybe I want to be a little bit more annoying with this book than I did with Legends and Lattes. I think my big thing with this one is just that there were conflicts introduced, solid, really good conflicts, like an antagonistic character, or even more so, a wider world issue that's happening that is a problem for our characters, but is also a problem for the potential romance that happens in this book, and that's keeping characters apart. And it's like a really legitimate thing, and I kind of wanted to dig into that and be like, all right, let's talk about that. Let's go there. Let's talk about how complicated this situation is, and then once we do, let's see how complicated it's going to be to resolve this worldwide, or to live in this world in this very complicated situation. And like, no, that's not what this book was. This book was, here's a conflict, just so we can have conflict, and when we don't need the conflict anymore, it vanishes. It is no more. And I hate that. Oh, I hate that. But I can remove myself from it a little bit, enough to say that's not what this book was doing. That's not what this book was about. This is a cozy book. It was never gonna dig that deep into these things. It's fine. Appreciate the cuteness. So I'm doing my darndest to not be annoying and to appreciate the cuteness. And it was very cute, and it was very sweet, and I had a very good time reading it. I laughed many times. It was a lovely, lovely time. And as far as cozy fantasy goes, again, not my genre, but this one, I think you should check it out if you like the genre. Also, I said I was going to take my time with Don Quixote because it's huge, and I had other books that I wanted to read this month, so I expected to just kind of chip away at it, read it slowly, maybe give you little updates throughout the month, probably spend the whole month reading it. I have spent almost all my time on it. So I'm not going to finish it this vlog, but I'm getting close. I have to finish the vlog tomorrow, so I'll read a little bit more today, and then tomorrow we'll come back together and we will talk about Don Quixote, because it's really good. It's a really good book. So this is my satire week, apparently. There are would-be's swarming this area, so if you can hear them, sorry. Don Quixote has taken me by surprise. I mean, okay, so I talked about it, I think it was in last week's vlog, and in last week's vlog, it took me by surprise. I didn't realize it was satirical, I didn't realize it would be so funny, but, so I did lose steam with it. Just to be clear, I did lose steam with it. This is broken into two parts, two books, technically, that have been bound up, and near the end, or halfway maybe through book one, I lost steam and wasn't vibing with it anymore. Started to feel a little bit repetitive, feel a little bit like this is getting drug out. But then book two started, and that revitalized everything. Did you know? You probably did. I don't know why I knew so little pop culture. I don't know why I knew so little about this book, but it took him years between publishing book one and book two of the Don Quixote book as we know it. And someone published the sequel to Don Quixote out from under the author of this story. Like, he published his own version of it, and it made this guy, Cervantes, so mad that the prologue of book 2 was him just ranting. He was so mad, which, I mean, I don't blame him, because everybody loved Don Quixote so much that they wanted a sequel, and he was working hard on the sequel, and then this other guy just shows up and creates his own story that this guy did not approve and didn't want published. And so yeah, it was a great prologue. I loved it. But anyway, I'm 700 pages into this, so I'm gonna finish it next week for sure. This book is so readable. I mean, it really flies by. Even in the parts where I was kind of losing steam a little bit, it's still just very, very readable, really easy to just kind of breeze through. But there's also so much engaging stuff happening, and a lot of stuff that I know is going over my head. Like, this narrative is so meta. We have stories within stories. We have an author. Sorry, my memory card filled up. We have stories within the story. We have an author within the story who's writing the story of Don Quixote. Now he's referencing the story, the first book of Don Quixote, and referencing, I think, the wrong version of Don Quixote that was written in the real world, the wrong version of the sequel he's referencing. The meta goes so deep that I'm not even sure I'm actually grasping it all. But also, Don Quixote's story has taken a drastic turn, and I won't talk about the turn that it's taken. I won't talk about the direction that it's gone in, because I went into this book knowing nothing, and I have been so pleasantly surprised around every corner, and I don't want to steal that from you if you're gonna read this, which you should, I think. Another example of the meta narrative is that within the story, a book about Don Quixote and Sancho's escapades, their history, was published within this world, and the people within this world, within the story of Don Quixote, have read the history and the adventures in the book of Don Quixote, and when they see Don Quixote and Sancho walking about in the world, they see them and they know their legend. They know that Don Quixote is a man that gets up to shenanigans, and they kind of poke and prod at him. This second half of the book is still hilarious, or rather, this book 2 of this book is still hilarious. Still so many funny scenes, but it's also really tragic. Like, I don't want to go into it because I'd spoilers, but the tone is definitely still consistently funny, but also there's been a big shift. I mean, take your time with it. I'm a very obsessive personality, so I go all in when I'm into something, but this has been such a delight to read. There's so much about this book that's so timeless, that really the things being discussed, the things being brought up are still so relevant and so worth discussing now, and I'm just, I love it. I love it so much. I also read the next 2 volumes of Yona, and I'm back into jiving with this series again. I was pretty down on it last week, but this week tensions are high, stakes are high, characters are being separated, are being put in horrible situations, and I know everything's gonna be fine because the series is still ongoing, so I know it's fine, but it doesn't feel fine. The series is very good at building up tension to where I can look at it and say, this isn't the type of series where everybody's just gonna die, but at the same time, it feels like I should be scared. It's very good. It's very good. So that's what I've read this week. I've read more of Don Quixote. I read The Bookshop and the Barbarian and continued with Yona. If you want to chat with me about any of these in the comments, I'd love to continue chatting with you. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday on this channel, Mondays and Fridays on my other channel. I'll see you again soon. Bye.